What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Boozer here. Thanks for stopping by. Hopefully, you guys having a good day so far. In today's video, we got two champion rebalances that I wanted to announce to you guys that Plarium is going to bring into the next upcoming patch. Let's talk about it here. Let's read what Plarium has to say about these new champion rebalances. It's always fun to hear what they have to say before we dive into it. So they're saying, hey folks, today we present two rebalances for the 11.60 update: Aratheia, Corpseflower, and King Gallcobar. Both of these champions, honestly, yes, they do deserve reworks, especially Aratheia, Corpseflower. Yeah, I play tested Aratheia and she was definitely not very good. So looking forward to her new rebalance kit. Let's see what Plarium has to say about these two champions. With Aratheia's rebalance, our strategy was to elevate her kit while staying true to her original design with a strong emphasis on Hex, debuff, synergy. If you guys don't know, she's pretty much like she's a damage dealer, but she's kind of specializing in arena. And if you have to apply a debuff before doing real damage, I'm kind of low hopes at this point after reading this. Aratheia can now bring significantly more value to the battlefield, dealing more damage, attacking more frequently, and applying Hex more reliably by ignoring block debuffs. Her passive has been adjusted to better complement her intended role of being an aggressive arena nuker. So again, being an aggressive arena nuker that needs to land Hex, not looking very good. With its impact becoming especially noticeable in longer battles. Cool. King Gallcobar. All right. King Gallcobar, I think he was not terrible in terms of his kit, but he's definitely below average. I would say borderline epic level kit almost, but let's see what they have to say about King Gallcobar. To truly bear the title of king, one's abilities must match the prestige that comes with it. Once again, our approach was to build upon the existing foundation of King Gallcobar's kit, strengthening his defensive and healing capabilities while also improving his effectiveness as a poison debuffer. Whether paired with other poison theme champions like Nell or used as a standalone option, King Gallcobar is now better equipped to consistently pressure the enemies and provide stronger overall support to your team. Okay. He was never really being used in any kind of real content. Obviously, a decent progression champion because he does bring support ability for your team. So if you don't have a healer, for example, he can be decent, or if you don't have a reviver. But let's jump into their new kits and see what they can do now. All right, first, let's talk about King Gallcobar. So his A1. Previously, it was a single target, place a shield on an ally with the lowest HP. The value of the shield is 15% of the max HP. Now it is going to be placing a shield on King Gallcobar and the ally with the lowest HP, and the value of the shield will be 15% of this champion's max HP. So a couple good things happened here. First of all, you're getting double the shield, which is double the value. And then now the champion shield will be based off of King Gallcobar's max HP. And King Gallcobar has pretty good base max HP. So the shield value should be higher. If you guys think about somebody like Duchess has an A1 that places 10% shield on itself and an ally. So King Gallcobar's A1 is now better than somebody like Duchess. So his A1 got a huge buff here. Looking good so far. Let's check out the A2. So previously was a AoE attack with a 100% chance of removing all buffs. Places poison debuff for 2 turns on each enemy for every buff removed. And then he also places block buffs. So it's an enemy strip with conditional poisons and a block buff. So now currently it's a attack, still removing all of the buffs, will place 2 poisons on each enemy. So the 2 poisons become unconditional, places additional poisons for 2 turns on each enemy for each buff removed on them, stacks up to 3 additional poisons. So he can go up to 5 poison debuffs. Also has a 100% chance of placing block buffs. Now it's 2 turns. Oh, that's something that I missed previously. It used to be only for 1 turn block buff. Now it's for 2 turns. These effects cannot be resisted if this champion is under a shield buff. Honestly, this is a pretty stellar rebalance, and the ability is actually quite good. So you have an enemy strip. It's an attack with an enemy strip, and then you guarantee yourself 2 poisons with conditional up to 5 poisons in total. And then you place block buffs. And it can bypass accuracy if he's under a shield. Now he's going to be placing shield on himself on 2 of his 3 abilities, his A1 and his A3. So he can consistently place shield. So that means he can consistently bypass the accuracy requirement for this, and it books down to a 3-turn cooldown. This is a pretty nice upgrade and a pretty nice ability. Let's check out his A3 here. So previously his A3 was a team cleanse, and then he places continuous heal for 1 turn on each ally for every debuff removed. So it's conditional to the amount of debuffs that get removed from the cleanse. And then he places a shield on all allies. The value of the shield is 25% of this champion's max HP. So that's been updated to full team cleanse, and he just places 2 continuous heals. So there's no conditional continuous heals anymore. Just the cleanse, 2 continuous heals, and then a shield equal to 25% of this champion's max HP. It's similar to Bad Alcazar's cleanse ability. This is on a 3-turn cooldown as well when fully booked. Bad Alcazar places continuous heals and then poisons, and then of course the full cleanse on a 3-turn cooldown. So King Gallcobar, instead of poisons, places a shield, but he has poisons on the A2. So very similar to Bad Alcazar. And then lastly, his passive gets a little bit of an update as well. Previously, whenever an enemy under a poison debuff attacks an ally under a shield, instantly activates 1 poison debuff on the enemy and instantly activates 1 continuous heal. Now, whenever an enemy under poison attacks an ally, instantly activates all poisons on that enemy, occurs once per turn. Also instantly activates 1 continuous heal on the attacked ally. So they took away the shield condition, which is very nice. So no longer do you have to attack somebody with a shield buff. And then all the poisons will activate instead of just 1. It means they're going to take a bit more damage. Now, he doesn't have any like poison extensions or anything in his kit, so he can definitely run through the poisons pretty quickly. But after reading all these updates, these are pretty stellar updates for this guy. Every one of his abilities are way better in terms of just overall value. Like I mentioned, his A1 better than Dutch's A1. His A3 cleanse similar to Bad L's cleanse, and then his A2 with the strip, poison, block buffs, and then chance to ignore accuracy. Ignore accuracy requirement on his side. Very, very strong updates. Not saying this guy's going to be like PvP arena meta champion or anything like that, but he definitely improves in terms of just being an overall progression champion. Poisons are great against bosses in general, and then obviously cleansing and stripping. Very nice utility from King Gallcobar. So let's move on to Aratheia Corpseflower and see what kind of updates she's picked up. So Aratheia Corpseflower here, Void Affinity, was pretty bad when I first tested her. Let's see what kind of updates she's got. So let's check out the A1. Previously, still a single target attack. Fills this champion's turn meter by 10%. Fills this champion's turn meter by additional 10% if the enemy is under Hex. When counterattacking using the skill, when hit by will counterattack with this skill when hit by enemies under a Hex. So that's been updated. Still single target attack. Still fills turn meter by 10%. Fills this champion's turn by additional 10% if they're under Hex. Still happening. Will counterattack using this skill when hit by enemies under Hex. So that still happens. This skill deals an additional 50% damage when counterattacking, and the multiplier increase. So the A1 basically just deals more damage now. So that's a good thing because she was struggling in the damage department a little bit. Let's check out the A2. AoE attack double hit. Previously was ignoring 10% of the enemies. Sorry, not defense ignore, it's just damage boost. So previously was increasing damage by 10%. Now it's 15%. If they're under Hex, will ignore shield, block damage, and strengthen. Looks like the block damage has been updated. So they added the block damage component here. Previously, the block damage ignore only happened if they were under Hex. So now they took away that condition. So they just added block damage as unconditional effect. Still has the turn meter boost for itself by 30%. That fills this champion's turn meter by additional 20% for each enemy killed by this skill. So the ability gets a small boost and then the damage multiplier increase. That's nice. We don't know the damage multipliers right now, so that could be make or break for these damage dealers. But just from the text alone, I don't think this is pretty significant. 5% damage boost for each enemy under Hex. So you're looking at about potentially 20% damage boost extra from previously. And then the block damage is no longer conditional. I'm not seeing this being significant enough. Skills are on a 3-turn cooldown, so not too shabby anyways. Let's check out the A3 here. Still placing accuracy on all allies, and then 100% chance of placing Death Brand on a target for 2 turns. Has a 100% chance of placing Hex on all enemies. Will ignore block debuffs. The problem is in Arena, there's just way more stuff now than just block debuffs. Like we got Stone Skin, we got Mercurial, but okay, also places a protected block damage on herself for 2 turns, then grants an extra turn. I I mean, it's, it got an upgrade. Previously, instead of the extra turn mechanic, you're only getting 50% turn meter, so the extra turn is very nice. The protected block damage is also very good. They did increase the block damage to 2 turns because she's taking an extra turn now, and then they added the ignore block debuffs. I mean, it's a solid update to this ability, but I just don't think it's going to be enough. So what you probably do with Aratheia here is you probably go A3. So you increase the accuracy, you place a Death Brand on somebody, you place Hex on everybody, whoever you can place it on. Protect yourself with block damage. Although it seems kind of unnecessary because you're placing block damage on yourself for 2 turns and then you're going to take a turn right away. So you're down to 1 turn duration on the block damage and then you take your turn and then that's it. Your block damage is gone. So not too sure how this block damage is gonna, kind of make sense. The previous ability with the block damage, it made a lot of sense because you only got turn meter. So you needed the block damage to protect yourself from dying so that you can get a turn again. But in this case, you're gonna get the turn anyways. There's really no need for the block damage here. Unless there's some weird interrupt where the enemy can come in after this turn. Like, for example, an enemy that comes in when you take extra turns. That's probably one way where the block damage can be handy. But yeah, I don't see the block damage being very, very handy here. So after you use the A3, then you use the A2. So you have the increased accuracy. You still need accuracy to land a Hex, unfortunately, on the A2. And then hopefully you got a pretty big nuke here, right? You got, your big AoE nuke, double hit, and then you get the turn meter stuff coming back into yourself. And then you can use your A1 to deal more damage and get turn meter and all that stuff against enemies under Hex. That's kind of like the flow of the skills here. Let's check out the passive here real quick. Whenever this champion kills an enemy in battle, will ignore 10% of all other targets' defense, up to 30%. So stacking ignore defense when you kill stuff. Whenever this champion kills 2 or more enemies in the battle, this champion will receive a shield at the end of their turn. The value of the shield is proportional to this champion's attack. That's kind of nice. I mean, it's kind of like a mastery, right? Whenever this champion kills 3 or more enemies in battle, places a block revive debuff on any subsequent enemies killed by this champion. Block revive. So this is what Plarium meant by being more of a threat in longer battles. So you can kind of see here her first part of her passive got updated. So initially it was just 10%. Now it's stacking up to 30%. The shield is also updated. Instead of being 40% of their max HP, she has very low base HP, just under 15k. So instead of being based off her HP, it's now based off of her attack, which makes a little bit more sense. And then lastly, the passive gets updated to a very dangerous block revive instead of this turn meter pushback. So honestly, I don't think the updates for Aratheia here is really enough. She still is a accuracy, damage dealing champion. She does bring increased accuracy, so you don't need to build her out with crazy amounts of accuracy. But if she doesn't have accuracy, she won't be able to land the Hex. And then that's a big source of her damage. Even, for example, this turn meter stuff requires accuracy. And because of this extra turn mechanic, she's going to run out her increased accuracy buffs pretty quickly. Now, Death Brand could be pretty useful, right? Because you basically can block revive somebody if you can land this. I would say debuffs in Arena in general are kind of inconsistent. Unless you also bring some kind of strip champion. So unfortunately, she doesn't have any buff strips in her kit. But, they kind of addressed this by allowing her to bypass block debuffs. That's kind of nice. Multi-hit AoE, also kind of nice for current meta and stuff. She has some survivability. Obviously, the shield buff on herself, the block damage can bring a little bit of survivability. She has a bunch of turn meter stuff, which is really good. Lets her cycle through her abilities, lets her get turns back really quickly. But just going through the attack cycle in my head, it just doesn't feel like it's enough. Obviously, a lot of this can change if her damage multipliers are really, really insane. So then she can get the kills, relatively consistently, meaning her passive will get a lot more value more quickly, more consistently. Then, perhaps she'll be way more effective. But right now, I just don't really see it based on this. Obviously, some play testing will be needed. If you guys are interested, make sure you guys check out the previous play test on her that I did. But I think she's a good candidate to be buffed for sure. King Gallcobar, good champion. I mean, he wasn't a bad champion, but he was definitely below average. Now he's buffed up, and I think his kit is definitely way, way stronger. Definitely a lot more value in his kit this time around. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it for this video. We got two new champion rebalances here, King Gallcobar and Aratheia Corpseflower. I think they're pretty good buffs, but I think Aratheia is definitely not enough for her to be very significant. She's supposed to be a PvP champion, but I just don't think it's. I don't think she's going to be able to fit in for many accounts. But King Gallcobar, I really like his buffs. I think he's just super solid all around. Anyways, that's going to be it for the video. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think about these two rebalance champions. Let me know in the comments below which champions you guys think needs a rebalance. And I'll definitely make sure to bring that up with Plarium. It's good to see that they've been consistently, rebalancing two champions every month. So yeah, let me know in the comments. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it for the video. Thanks for watching until the end. I appreciate you guys. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.